Intangible, speaking for the unspoken. Born in Michigan, July 24, 1969, she looked to the stars as a child and discovered more than comfort in the silence. Abuse creates the recluse, and her environment made her run. September 23, 2022, it stopped her in her tracks. She had collected enough puzzle pieces, and her time to make the intangible tangible was now upon her. They only make statues of crazy people. I'll take that challenge. Just as there are readers and writers, there are the religious and the spiritual. What some may call God, consciousness, universe, or true self, I call it life. From divine predictions to bilocation and everything in between, life leaves clues to guide us on our journey. I recall choosing this lifetime, knew it would be difficult, but knew it would be worth it. Within is the best place to be. Here is my story. Snow Angel. December 2020, deep in the fog of my spiritual awakening and rather enjoying my own nakedness, inspiration came to mind for a naked snow angel and an artsy photo of it. But how? First, it needed to snow. We had a light snow a few days before, but it had since melted. I also had a tripod for my phone and decided I would video it and take a screenshot, as I later did with my photo for Shika's book. That was the plan, so I waited. Every morning, like a kid at Christmas time, waiting for Santa to arrive, I checked outside to see if it had arrived. And like Santa, it waited a couple more weeks to show. Finally, on Christmas morning, there it was. I hurriedly set up my tripod, started recording, turned on the outside light, and stepped out into the long-awaited snow on the back deck to make my snow angel. Unfortunately, as one might expect, the video angle wasn't exactly what I had hoped for when it came to being artsy. Trust me when I say nobody wanted to see that. I was a bit deflated, but after weeks of patience, I was able to make my idea a reality and was happy it waited until Christmas. The following morning, while making coffee, life reminded me to check the game camera I had set up on the kitchen floor to capture any wildlife that passed through my yard. They were all coming in quite close that year, and it was nice seeing who my new friends were. Maybe it had captured something, so I pulled out the micro SD card and sat down with my coffee to go through the images. I had forgotten it was even there and knew it liked capturing the tree branches blowing in the wind, so it may take a while, but I listened to life. It's my constant friend. There were 2 photos from that day. The first was of my lower leg as I stepped into the snow, and the second was the photo I've been wanting for weeks. Wow, my eyes are starting to leak again. I asked myself what the likelihood is of a simple, inexpensive game camera set up to detect motion, to capture my entire body inside the frame in an artsy manner on Christmas morning. Did I manifest it? Maybe, but life definitely gave me the best Christmas ever in that single shot. I promptly sent that photo off to be placed on canvas so it could hang on my wall, including the timestamp to always remind me, and as proof to others, of my connection with life on this magical Christmas morning. Crazy statue. They only make statues of crazy people. I heard Dean's voice many times as his marketing video came across my feed. He says it as a way of pushing us to lean into our fears so we can be better versions of ourselves. It's a catchy statement that instantly stuck in my head the first time I heard him say it. I recall telling him in 2021 I'd take on that challenge. As with choosing this life, I knew it was one not many would take. But crazy was apparently in my blood for a reason. I saw a post from his Success Club, and not having posted in the group for some time made me wonder what success means to me now. We all have different ideas of what it means based on what point we are at in this experience we call life. I've also learned to have a few basic categories we choose to succeed in, such as family, career, and spiritually. I started writing. Overall, I suppose it means accomplishing what we set out to do. We are programmed to seek those accomplishments that we can see, touch, taste as proof we did it. But how do we remember what we set out to do spiritually? Some may call it a purpose, and since life has placed me firmly into a corner, I am forced to think about that statue, and for some reason it always makes me smile and raise my crazy hand for it. As I'm writing the experiences for this book, I'm remembering all the things that have stuck with me over the years, going way back into my childhood. Weird stuff like wanting a mausoleum. What 12-year-old girl says that out loud? Me. But I also remember a moment before this lifetime, of choosing this lifetime because of how it ends. So I think it's important to remember that our purpose isn't or may not be given to us, as I know mine was something I signed up for. Looking back, it's our childhood dreams and desires that parents should probably write down to help guide us on our journey so we don't get so lost in the repercussions and decisions of others. As the holidays are going on around me, I think back to what I asked for as a kid. I assure you it wasn't much. Kids were to be seen and not heard in my house. So maybe that's another reason this is important to me. One thing that sticks out the most is quietly crying around Christmas, telling Aunt Rena all I really wanted was a ream of paper so I could write or draw. But people bought me what they wanted me to have instead. She came back later with a shirt box for me. Ugh, more clothes, I thought to myself. But when she handed it to me, it was heavy, and when I looked at her, she smiled. Hidden inside the box, under the tissue paper, was a ream of lined paper. I felt so bad for crying about it, yet so happy at the same time, because she didn't just hear me, she listened and took action. Now, decades later, remembering bits of why I chose to incarnate, I find myself once again writing, even without paper. It's a constant that has never stopped. I suppose I just have a lot to say. Life probably had to back me into a corner because I'm stubborn and fiercely protective of myself. I was told my choice would be extremely difficult, but I reminded him I was stronger than most, and with this position left unfilled for so long, I could handle it. I suppose I've always loved challenges, and this lifetime has certainly been full of that. But myself has shown me many supernatural things throughout the years, and once I finish pulling these specific threads out, then I feel I will have accomplished what I set out to do, what I chose to do, what I signed up for. The title came to me yesterday, and I planned to have it written and published before January 2023. I'm backed into a corner and feel some urgency behind it. Then I feel I will have succeeded in fulfilling my greatest challenge. That's when I know I will have succeeded for myself. What comes afterwards is completely unknown to me at this point, and for those who have seen and known as much as I have all these years, it's a bit unnerving to be so blind. I looked up crazy people statues, and the Thinker was one of the first that popped up. Ironically, it has always been a favorite of mine. Coincidence? Maybe. As I had no idea it was considered a crazy person, yet it was clearly a favorite of many others as well. I saved the image and started writing, wondering what my own statue would look like. That's when life reminded me of my snow angel on the wall behind me, my own tangible proof of my connection. After writing my post full of thoughts, I noticed again the similar naked pose of the Thinker and knew it was life telling me, this is my statue, my snow angel. Sadhguru. July 2020, I drove from Michigan to Tennessee to attend Sadhguru's In the Lap of the Master event and had signed up to volunteer for it as well. I had only been familiar with him and his work for about 8 months, but I knew I wanted every opportunity to be in his presence and talk to him if at all possible. It'd been a while since I had the opportunity to volunteer and was appreciative that option was available, as that is where I usually felt most comfortable. Turning into the Isha grounds, slowly through the stately gates, I turned the wheel down the paved and winding tree-lined drive. There's a sense of peace that permeated my mind. as I'd been searching for answers to the visions and voices and everything else in my life and hoped to find something there. The trees always bring that peace to me, and pondered if it was them or the magic of this place as I continued into the unknown, around each curve on a short journey that seemed to go on for forever. I couldn't imagine a more beautiful setting to welcome its visitors. Periodically, I'd pass those who were walking, in small groups or individually, in either direction. I wondered where they parked and where they were headed. I remembered walking or riding my bike to my childhood best friend's house, a mile away from my own, along a straight paved road flanked by open fields. It's a good day for a walk, I thought. I noticed they all seemed to be peaceful as they slowly continued on their way, absorbed in their own thoughts. They are like me, I noted, even though I am not like them. I was so grateful to be there. I'd been in contact with the Isha staff overseeing the volunteers, and those directing traffic advised me where to park. Being early in the day and the day before the event, we were free to roam. Being unfamiliar with the Institute itself, or even what they did, I took in the buildings as I was drawn to the design, which was much different than what I was used to seeing. But being one who enjoys unique architecture, I appreciated the inviting openness and warm curves built into the two main buildings, Adiyogi and Mahima. On a guided hike to the waterfalls, venturing further into the woods along a narrow footpath, I spoke with a variety of people that had amazing energy, each in their own unique way. This is what I enjoy. This is where I am at peace, amongst the hugs of the trees with dirt beneath my feet. In the near distance ahead, the mellow sounds of a woodwind being played reached my soul, making my head stretch to the side to see if I could find the source. I had mentioned to someone how I would enjoy putting up a hammock and staying the night in the woods, listening to the trees. They asked if I were concerned about chiggers, which we do not have in Michigan, but I assured them I was not, even though it was highly unlikely I'd have the opportunity to do such a thing. Late into the evening, with the staff gathered in groups with the volunteers, we introduced ourselves to one another. I'd mentioned in passing to one of the staff how I was hoping to speak with Sadhguru. It doesn't hurt to throw it out there. Anything is possible. Shortly afterwards, we had the opportunity to wave at him and called out a greeting to him from our circle, as the surprisingly quiet purr of his electric motorcycle slowly carried him by us. After driving the half hour to the nearest hotel and back again, I spent the next morning posted at the entrance of the new Isha Living Kamala residential community to provide a map of the newly plotted lots for sale and to advise where a model home was available for a walkthrough if they wanted to get a feel of its interior. In the afternoon, I drove guests in one of the shuttle buses to where the newest apartment buildings were being built, and was also stationed in front of a model studio apartment for a bit. Isha served everyone in attendance a wonderful, light, flavorful, plant-based meal. I tried to learn what each of these new-to-me foods were, as I would opt to enjoy these delicacies again. The volunteers, like myself, were released of duties to enjoy the program we were all there to attend. Being a recluse and wanting to experience the event as fully as possible, the perfect spot called out to me. As I followed its direction, I found it waiting there, just for me, beneath the welcome shade of a lone young magnolia tree, right in front of the Mahima. As it turns out, I had an unobstructed view of where Sadhguru spoke from, with nobody directly around me to interfere with my sensitive energy. From this spot, I could feel the embrace and power of his calming energy reaching everyone, but especially deep into me, and wondered if he felt my own. This was no surprise in my heart as I connect with those I seek to, and felt the connection in my chest. I felt he spoke directly to me when mentioning those needing back support versus those who did not. I was clearly not yet where I needed to be, and was aware there were others there also sitting in a seat like me, but from my limited vantage point I could see no one, nor did I care either way. Another time I felt his energy speaking to mine was when he asked us to note how we could feel his presence without being directly in front of him or speaking directly to him. Behind closed eyes, my chest stirred as with a knowing. Yes, I hear you. He was very good at making us feel the individual experience. I know this indirect language well. Oddly enough, he also stated why there were no chiggers in the woods, which made me smile, and I wondered if it were his way of advising he listens out there as well. We were fed another meal at the intermission before the evening meditation. Returning with my food to my place beneath the magnolia, now under a dark sky, I savored these new foods as others passed by on their way to the restroom. Behind me was an area sectioned off for those needing seclusion as COVID-19 precautions were in full effect, but I was not concerned, and it provided me with seclusion of my own with the walkway in front of me. At that time, teenagers started moving their belongings into the walkway in front of me. I felt my energy stirred and tried not to let it affect me, but the buzzing in my chest was not to be ignored, and I felt anxiety creeping in. One invited another of their friends, and soon they filled the space in the walkway, sitting directly at my feet. I moved my seat a few times before moving it in front of the small tree, as the shade from the sun was no longer needed. It gave me a bit more space to breathe. I knew they meant no harm. I had no idea what was going on inside me, wrapped up in a world of their own. Then another of their friends squeezed in as well, and my anxiety said it had had enough. I calmly and quietly, yet unexpectedly, picked up my belongings, including my back support, and fought with everything in me to not leave as I headed down the open space directly in front of where Sadhguru had been sitting. A voice over the speaker pleaded with me to not leave. Please stay. But as I battled the tears wanting to fall, the energy in my chest, I focused on trying to maintain my composure. All I could do is continue to take each step forward. The quicker I got out of there, the quicker she would stop asking me to stay. This was absolutely directed at me. The front gates closed early, and we had been directed where to park for the event across the main road from the entrance gate. The anxiety in my chest did not want to wane, and was battling with wanting to run through the dark the whole mile to my car. Others were still milling about here and there, which kept me at a walk to not draw any more attention to myself than I already had. I'd come all this way just to leave now? What is wrong with me? But I couldn't go back. My insides needed me to get out of there, and every step of that mile pulled hard at me until I was far enough away I could no longer hear the voices over the speaker. In the very early hours of the next morning, I woke to Sadhguru's voice in my head. He lightly chuckled in a soothing way and said, "You do not need me." The clarity was as if he were in the room with me himself. "But I do," I cried out to him in my head. Tears quickly welled in my eyes, hoping, desperately waiting to hear his reply, but there was nothing, and I was left to my own tears, asking myself again why I couldn't stay for the meditation, the most important part, the night before. I kept wondering why he said that. "If not you, then who?" I pleaded inside my head. After getting breakfast at the restaurant next door, still trying desperately to calm my chest, hearing his gentle laugh and words in my head over and over, I headed home, trying to make sense of what he meant by that. After hearing his mission, I now understood his focus was on developing children, starting before they were affected by the negativity of the outside world I'm so familiar with. That's a mission that squeezed at my heart, and I longed for that myself, even though I knew I was well past that tender age. But my heart is still like a child, I argued with myself, and silently back at him. But there were no more answers from him. The 2-lane road turned into freeway and back again, weaving an indirect path through the countryside, leading me back into the right hand of Mother Earth herself.